With over 400 celebrity interviews and tons of pop culture nerdiness, Too Opinionated is a safe haven for your inner geek. Find us at meistercon.com or on YouTube under MeisterCon Pod. And please subscribe. It would really help us out. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. So excited today. I've got actor Michael Toe with me. So welcome, Michael.
Hey, Michael. Thanks for having me.
It's a show of Michaels.
Yeah.
That might make a decent podcast. I'll just have, just a group of people and we can talk about being Mikes.
I did back in college. I did a radio show and we didn't get along, but it was another Michael. So it was Michael. I was pushing for the Michael versus Michael. Like that. It had that kind of.
That'd be good. Yeah, that'd be good.
I mean, we would be Michael and Michael, but with that one.
It'd be more adversarial. That might work good on a show, Too Opinionated. That might work good.
Yeah, good point.
Although, my son and I chose the name Too Opinionated, thinking that because of the generational differences, we would be at odds on our opinions. And we've never been at odds. We've basically had the same opinion the whole time. So it hasn't been, I guess you could say it's too opinionated in our direction, but there hasn't been opposing opinions.
False you opinionated.
I know. And once you choose a name, you're kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, it's true, right?
Especially so we just rode with it. That's the dirty secret of the Too Opinionated podcast. Not too opinionated. Now, Michael, this is great. I've been a fan of yours for a while. You always seem to pop up on nerdy shows that I watch, which has been pretty great.
Well, thank you.
You showed up on Daredevil. You showed up on Iron Fist, Master of None. We saw you on there. You were like a waiter on there. And even going way back, and this is probably the first time I remember kind of seeing you was, I think you had an appearance on Brotherhood.
Yeah, that was my first job. That's how I got SAG. I got a chance to work with Jason Isaacs, the guy, Lucius M. Malfoy.
That's not a bad way to get your SAG card.
No, and it was actually pretty perfect because I didn't, it was kind of a trying to, he was a gangster. We tried to play we tried to sell him some fake bags. It was my real life brother, Darren, and I. And he pulls a gun on us. So we had to act scared. But that guy, I'm telling you, when he puts his face, off camera, he's the nicest guy. All of a sudden with camera, and he starts he gives you that look. You can see why he got cast as Lucius Malfoy. That guy was scary. We didn't even have to act. We were scared. It was.
I always wanted to have that ability to turn it on. Like if you get in a rough situation to turn the scary on. I never had.
Yeah. Same here, man. I tried to do that. I remember one time in a movie that I was in, I tried to be the tough guy, and they're like, after they did, I did the scene, and they're like, and the director's like, great, and they're all laughing. Yeah, that was so funny. I'm like, funny? I was trying to be the tough guy there. I was trying to be.
Yeah, it's not that easy. Not too many people have it, but he's definitely one of them. You would not want him upset with.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No doubt. That guy's got
you could be having a nice day and just totally get it screwed up.
Do you remember the Patriot when he played the
oh man. Yeah, he was super scary in that
one. Yes. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah. That was that's such a good movie. He was so good in it. But so a little bit of an asshole.
Scary is the word when you think of Jason Isaacs.
Yeah, he's a great actor. Yeah, love seeing him stuff. We've been enjoying you on Boston Strangler. Been watching that, which that's unusual for me because I'm kind of a chicken, so I don't like, I was like worried it was going to be overly gory or stuff but it's more focused on the overall story, not the
right,
not the violent part of it. I've been okay, but you've been great in it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the first time I had to do a. That's the first. I'm from Boston, and that was the first time that I had to do a Boston accent. First time ever it got on screen. Normally, when they kind of think of Boston accents, you kind of don't think of me. You kind of think of the Matt Damon, the Ben Affleck, Casey Affleck
Yeah.
types. But well, actually, I hear it a little bit. But I it took years to try to get rid of my Boston accent. But finally, I got cast in a period piece. Matt Ruskin, who's the director, and he let me use the Boston accent. I'm like, all right, there we
That
go.
had to feel pretty good.
Yeah, it is, because the thing is, we, for example, that movie took place in the '60s, the Boston Strangler, and there were a lot of Asian Americans in Boston then, and but you don't, when you think of Boston movies in the '60s, you don't think you don't have that picture of, you don't have that picture. You have the I don't know, not me is what you had, and so, and it was kind of nice that they cast me in it, and it gave me a shot there.
Yeah, and it is really good film. It had a great cast.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got a chance to work with Bill Camp. He's the guy from Queen's Gambit, and he's the teacher in Queen's Gambit. He was fantastic. I mean, I got a chance to learn from him, and kind of how he played off the camera, and we had some great conversations. He's a big hockey guy, and he's a Massachusetts guy too. So that was kind of
That's
cool.
like a rule down there. You have to be a hockey fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, didn't Boston, because I'm a sports guy, but I'm more casual when it comes to hockey, but didn't Boston, they were like kicking butt all season long and then kind of flamed out there at the
end? I thought we were having a friendly interview, Mike. That's a sore subject.
I mean, they had one of the best seasons ever, right? During the regular season.
Yeah, and then it hurts. That hurt still hurts, and it's been now a few months, and I feel it.
I play in a fantasy baseball league, and we've been together for close to 25 years now, and it's just, it's been a keeper league, so you've basically had the same team the whole time with that. And I've had years where I'll just blow through the regular season and just be winning every week, and then lose first round of the playoffs. And it just, even in fantasy baseball, it took me months to get over that. So I can imagine if your team, your actual home team, has a year like that, it has to be hard on everybody.
It's tough. Definitely tough, and but that's the thing about sports. You never know, right? Like once playoff time, and it's true, like the sayings, right? Once playoff comes, it's anybody's game. I mean,
that's why everybody tries so hard just to get in, because even if you get in, but you've had a lousy season, you never know.
Yeah, right. I mean, injuries and all that sort of thing, and it's really like who steps up there, and then the pressure too, right? The pressure of, I mean, you can see I'm a pickleball player, and it's, you have people who play, when they play recreational, it's, they're great. All of a sudden, a tournament play, a little pressure on the line, some people watching, and then next, like, wait, what happened? Like, what happened to that shot where you hit just 3 into the net?
I kind of think I need to start a Too Opinionated pickle league, just with the guests on the show.
Yeah, I mean, the pickleball podcast, those are growing fast.
They really are. And didn't what was it, Colbert that did the kind of the special where he had actors playing pickleball against each other for charity?
Yeah. It was a little bit embarrassing, though. I mean, you're a baseball player. Like it was a little bit embarrassing because they didn't have really like pickleball. They didn't have real pickleball players. Like it's like having a baseball game and people couldn't throw the ball, from they couldn't pitch from home to the catcher. I mean, it was it was a little bit embarrassing, but it just shows where the sport is. And actually, that's one of my goals would be I think it will happen, to have a kind of a like either an Asian celebrity kind of pickleball game that they invite me in, or some sort of just normal, like, pro-am, actor thing. And
I mean, they do celebrity golf tournaments. Why not a pickleball tournament?
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen, and hopefully they do a little bit on, like, add in a little skill part to it. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, I'm gonna keep my eye out because I'm a sport guy. I'll watch any sport. I grew up watching like Wide World of Sports, and they
Yeah,
would
yeah.
show, they'd be showing like blindfolded dart throwing, and I'd still be watching, whatever they show.
I tell you, from that angle, if once you understand the game, it's like a chess match, like that back and forth stuff. It's a great thing.
I think I got to try that out because it's difficult, especially as you get a little older. You don't want to do anything that puts you at risk for hurting something because it's going to take like 10 times as long to heal. If you tear a Achilles or something in your knee or something, you're going to be down for a while. So I'm looking for that sport that I can play without actually hurting myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I mean, there's a misnomer of the sport can be played that way, but kind of like the competitive part, it can be. It's people do get hurt. Actually, we had a friend who played and she tore her Achilles like literally like a week ago.
Oh, it's the worst. Have you ever seen somebody do that? That is it just like you feel so bad for them because you can tell that hurts.
Yeah, oh,
I've played basketball with guys that have done that. And, ooh, no, thank you, no, thank you. But I'm the same way. I'll say all that, but if you put me on a pickleball court and it got a little competitive, all that stuff's out the window. Then you're just
I
in.
see you're the type that would dive to the ball, right?
Yeah, I totally would.
Yeah.
I remember playing racquetball. I was telling you I played back in college, and I swung the racket up trying to hit the ball, and it just cracked me right like that with that, and just busted my lip. And I mean, it was all So I'm embarrassed. I'm in a tournament. I'm embarrassed. Bleed, but I didn't come out. I kept on playing. My lip was swollen up, but I didn't stop.
I think we're similar like that, Michael.
Yeah. It's one of those that in the right moment, I would need somebody to save me from myself. It's all fun and games till it's not.
Yeah. Right. We'd have we're like the Jason Isaacs on the court.
That's right. That's right. That may be I still wouldn't be scary. I might be intense, but I think it would still be humorous. I don't think anybody would be too worried. So let's talk a little bit about City on Fire because we are loving this. That's like must watch in our house. Really been enjoying that. But tell us a little bit about what's that one about? What's your role in?
Yeah, City on Fire is by Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage. They brought us OC, Gossip Girl, Heart of Dixie, Chuck. Really some big,
Chuck was one when the kids were younger. That was a must watch. They absolutely loved Chuck.
Agree. Yeah, and so they're the ones. Fake Empire. They're the ones producing and who created this. It's based on a book by Garth Hallberg, and it takes place in 2003, a few years after 9/11. A young 19-year-old gets shot, and it kind of ties in between the underground music scene and the kind of the wealthy Upper East Side of New York, real estate kind of moguls, and kind of a whodunit. It's on Apple TV, 8-episode first season, and I play Joe Young, who is the father of the daughter who gets shot. So my stuff's not no lights.
Oh, it's pretty emotional when you're on camera.
Yeah, stuff is pretty intense all the way through. I don't get any really much relief for my character.
Well, what's it like to play a role like that? Because is that easy to get back out of the mindset? Because that could you're playing a kind of a role of an upset father. That seems like that could cause you to be upset.
Yeah, it's to me. So I'm very you can probably tell, I love talking to people and hanging out, especially like a lot of these sets. You really have some great actors, and a lot of times, I might know people who are on set, and so the general thing is like once they call cut is like to hang out and be like, hey, what's going on, or you haven't seen them I'll get to know some, people who are, kind of the celebrity actors or, however. And so you want to kind of generally, the thing is, I would love to just hang out and talk to them. But I really couldn't. And I made that mistake on one episode, and I had to kind of then separate and kind of say I can't hang out where everyone's hanging out, because they have their own storyline. I had to kind of go separate and kind of get in that corner, and really I had to turn my seat away because I wasn't ready. I had to get myself in that. I let up one time, and I regretted it, and I had to, when they yelled cut, I'm like, I need some time. So I had to kind of go away and put myself in that mindset, because if any when you have a father who's really worried about their daughter, um worried about their daughter, whether or not they're going to survive or not, it is a dark place, and a really emotional place, and on screen would read if you can't just turn that on and be believable. So I had to really kind of go there. And so it took a lot of prep stuff, and unfortunately not a lot of socializing with a lot of the other actors, at least on my shoot days.
Well, that was kind of my thinking, because it's so heavy. It's such a heavy role that I know if it were, I couldn't act, but if I could, I would have to have, I'm an introvert at heart, so I would have to have that time to kind of decompress and kind of, turn it back off. And I don't know that it would be a quick switch. It might take a little while.
Yeah, coming out of it, to me, the good thing was a lot of times my shots were, I didn't have a lot of back to back. So like it was not like I had all of a sudden be, turn it off and then be, I kind of had to, when I'm on set, I kind of stay there. So and we shot in New York, and I live in Boston. So a lot of times when the trip home, after filming an episode, I got a chance to kind of come out of it. It takes my time to come out of it. That's where bring up pickleball again. I would play actually after I would play pickleball actually with friends, to kind of get myself in a better kind of, to get myself out of that mindset. It can be dark, and sometimes you kind of hear about like the Heath Ledgers and those kind of scenarios, and you're kind of like, oh, that's like the like the extreme cases. But when you kind of go there, your body, if you kind of do a method type of acting, your body sometimes has a hard time telling what if you're trying to get in there. It's how can they tell really sometimes that somebody, if it's fake or if it's real. And so your body has those reactions. And as an athlete, I've had tons of times where I'm really tired playing sports and all that sort of thing, but physically tired compared to emotionally tired are two different things. Emotionally tired is a level of exhaustion.
Well, physically tired can feel kind of good at times. Especially if it's after you've done something, played a match or something. But that emotional tiredness, it just wipes you out, and it can linger for a while.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think I'd rather have the sore legs and stuff from running.
Yeah, right.
But now we've really enjoyed you on the show. We were a little late getting started on it, and we don't binge a whole lot, because we kind of like you watch an episode and then you can discuss it, dissect it a little bit until and then you come back in a day or two and watch the next one. That's kind of how we do it. So it takes us a little longer to get through it. But that's been a really well done show. So
yeah, we've got some great feedback, and it's my scene gets, my character gets, as it builds, my scenes get bigger, and there's a lot of we just finished the last episode just finally came out, so now we're at a point now where people can binge it, and it's I think they'll enjoy it.
Well, so far I have yet to find an Apple program that I didn't like. They're putting out some really good stuff.
Yeah, they are.
You were on Defending Jacob. Enjoyed that one.
Yeah,
that was a good.
That was another Boston guy, Chris Evans.
I forgot he was from Boston.
Yeah, so he hides his accent and so off set, off camera, we were kind of chatting, and we were kind of in towns that competed against each other sports wise. But when he off camera, he's got that Boston accent pretty strong.
He kind of looks like a Boston guy, I think. Even though
Yeah,
he doesn't sound like it, he kind of looks like he'd fit. Walking down the streets of Boston, I could see that.
especially now though when he's post Captain America, right?
That's
Like
right. That's right.
Captain America kind of had a I kind of had just a Steve Rogers kind of feel. But yes, now when he's like doing other roles, I'm like, yeah, oh yeah. I didn't know why I didn't know that. That guy,
Do you
that guy,
remember the time? Go ahead.
no, John, yeah, looking at him now, no doubt you can tell he was from Sudbury.
Yeah,
Master.
I know. He was, my opinion, the perfect Captain America.
I agree.
I know he played Human Torch in those Fantastic Four, and he was good, but he was Captain America. I mean, who else are you gonna get for that role? I mean, he was perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Agreed.
Yeah. Well, I guess now we've got Sam Wilson is the Falcon is playing Captain America now. So
Ooh,
guess
I'm
that's
the
yeah, you need to catch up. No, I was going to ask you, was there a time there, because you've been acting for a while now, was there a time when you started getting asked to play the dad? And do you remember that time where you're like, hey, when did this happen?
Yeah, it's I didn't mind. I mean, because I am a dad,
Yeah.
and I've been a dad for a while. It actually wasn't bad because I didn't mind that. Partially because I don't know. I could see some people maybe, who made that transition over and kind of afraid of getting older. To me, when I started getting older and get my roles started, um, it correlated and on with also larger roles. So I actually liked that kind of getting over to that dad side. And the last, I don't know, maybe last few years, there's been quite a few roles, a lot of parent type roles, um, but really something that you can, for example, the emotions of having a daughter who's very sick. I mean, those are kind of core. That's like the core of almost as emotional of a core emotion as you can get of a child who is in danger. And to be able to play a character like that, that's, to me, that's it's a honor to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
And it becomes these really core, cute core human emotions that a parent can play that, maybe I don't know, a non-parent in their 20s or something just doesn't, it's not
Yeah,
the
they don't
same.
have anything to base it on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're really good in those type of roles. But we like you every time we see you. We liked you on the Blacklist. Wasn't there didn't you do a Law and Order at some point in there?
Yeah, I did a bunch of Law and Orders, a few characters there recently, a Law and Order organized crime, which I was really the lead of the episode, which was really kind of cool. And that was another dad finding
Yeah,
his.
that's the one we watched. I think you've done like SVU too, but organized crime is the one that we watched. And yeah, they wouldn't have much of an episode if you.
Yeah.
Well, and so Mike or Michael, we jumped ahead just a little bit, but let's back up a little bit. Talk a little bit about what got you into acting. Why did you choose to go into the acting profession? Because not an easy profession.
It's not. I loved it as a kid. I was doing all like plays and all the, in elementary school and all that sort of stuff. I always liked the lead and stuff. And we had a great music program with a teacher that was really fantastic. But then at some point it was either sports or acting. And I thought the cooler thing was sports. And so that's where I went down that path. And then but I used to have dreams about like the actor dreams of like, for going on stage and for getting lines and all those things. And then I wake up and I'm like, I'm not an actor anymore. That was 10 years ago or whatever it was. But then so I went to another career in finance, and then in the early 30s, my brother was like he was a model at that time and kind of doing like kind of dabbling in the acting side. And there was a role on Brotherhood that they needed two Asian American kind of kind of bad guy kind of types. and they couldn't find the character. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do it. He asked me if I could go down. Didn't want to do it, but they couldn't find the people. So they kept trying, and they kept trying to find anybody to do it. And then finally, my brother said, hey, come on down with me. I got an audition today. I didn't even prepare, just kind of came down, didn't have any expectations. Sure enough, we got the role. And, at that point, Massachusetts had a lot of the tax credits there. So a lot of movies were coming in. And so I did a lot of the, it was great. Just my first role in well, not role, but I did background in the movie Departed. And that was with Matt Damon, DiCaprio, Jack Nicholson, and so many fantastic people. But I remember finishing a scene, and they were like, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and there were like 100 people waiting to see Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon waiting after him. And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of cool. And at that point, I'm like, hey, why not? There's a lot of movies coming in. I'm gonna try. I have my other career. This is not anything serious. I'm gonna just I'll try to get some roles, and and I take my business kind of background and that kind of how to build a business kind of mentality. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I got to train a little bit again. I have the core talent of it because I did it as a kid when it was, pretty serious as a kid. So I'm like, all right. Then I started, methodically looking at it and saying how to do this as a hobby, as a serious hobby. And, so a little bit here and there, and then finally got some more roles. And then at one point it was like, all right, well, Boston had its thing, but New York was only 4 hours away. So like, trip down. And so I would go down, he's in my late 30s now. I would drive back and forth from Boston to New York, 4.5 hours, sometimes back and forth. And I would say, like, I had a good time in college, but I had more all-nighters as a 40-year-old, like 19-year-old. And that says a lot. So
yeah. And those aren't as easy at 40.
No, they're not. I had to stop and take some naps on the way down. So it was not a 9-hour trip. It was like a 12-hour trip. But yeah, so then it just, I'm like, all right, it's a hobby and I'm just going to keep going. And at some point I'm going to hit a ceiling. When I hit that ceiling, then so be it. And it's been, 15 years now.
You haven't hit it yet.
I'm at the ceiling and things are actually really.
Does your brother hold it over your head that he gave you the push?
That's a kind of sensitive topic. But I maybe in the beginning, but I think really right now he's proud of me. But the beginning, yes.
Well, that's just what brothers do.
I think so.
Yeah, but that's good.
I owe it to him because he's the one who brought me back into it, and he actually got me into pickleball as well. So he's kind of that person in our family who kind of gets things.
Is he older or younger brother?
Younger.
Okay, see, that's pretty good because usually the older brother's kind of dragging the younger one around, but he helped you out a little bit. At least he's picking good things for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it's something that he did. That was 15 years ago, and it's still going. It's going as strong as ever.
Well, if you ever get bored, do you just call him up and be like, "Hey, what are you doing right now? Maybe I'll try that."
We got us into hockey. And that didn't have the payoff. It's harder to come into hockey, not being a great skater and coming in as a, 30-year-old trying to play hockey. It's not the same,
No.
I had a ceiling pretty quick there.
When I was growing up, I was baseball, basketball, track is what I usually played. But we had a football team when I was a freshman. When I was in 8th grade, so I was getting ready to go into high school. They won state championship. So then I show up freshman year of high school and I'm thinking, what this team needs is me. This guy that's never played football. I'm going to come in and rescue this team that, just barely went undefeated.
That's the ingredient.
Yeah, that's what they needed. Well, I lasted like a day. And I thought I was in pretty good shape. I was like running track. I was like, yeah, I can handle this. Well, they ran 40 or 50 sprints in a row, 40-yard dash. Well, in track, you run those. If you run a sprint, you run a sprint. Well, in football, you run like half speed because they do like 100 of them. Well, nobody told me that. So I'm running. I'm like, I'm the fastest guy out here.
This is easy.
This is easy. And then after about 20 or so, like I am hurting. And the rest of these guys, then nothing. There's nothing. And then, an hour later, I was like, yeah, I'm done. That was the end of my football career.
I hear.
Oh, and Blue Bloods, we saw you on there.
Yeah, that you're bringing up all the Boston guys. Donnie Wahlberg, Donnie, Mark, those are all Boston guys, and we had a good Donnie Wahlberg and a good conversation about back in the day. And
he's an underrated actor, I think.
yeah, absolutely. It's partly because he's really been in Blue Bloods for so long. I don't forget how many years, 13, 14, 15 seasons or something like that. And so he's kind of been, kind of in that one project. So, but yeah, absolutely. Fantastic actor. And yes, I agree. Underrated. Rather than, his brother, for example, who's, doing different movies.
Well, that's right.
To see all the range, but, as one character for that long of a time, you don't give the person as much credit for all the things that he could be doing, but he's not because of that one show.
What would your preference be if somebody said, we're gonna put you on this show and you can play the same role for 15 years? Would you take that because of the security, or would you be, that's the only role you can do though? That's it. Or would you want the whole career where you're doing all the different?
Man, Michael, that's a good question.
It's a tough one.
The real thing about that is also in reality, it's the money thing. So one is a lot of money, guaranteed, and the other one is probably ups and downs and worries and things like that. But you can play
whatever you want.
Expand the scratch the itch of the different parts of different kind of roles, and the dad or the bad guy or the good guy or it's interesting. I think,
because I'm guessing he probably and the other stars on Blue, but they probably went through that at some point. Like, do we want to keep doing this, or do I want to go try to do something else? I don't know.
I think I would go with that, with the one project, because that would mean that I've been acting through this whole time. Because right now it still doesn't, even though I know, realistically, I have my career is doing well, but that's saying that's a guarantee.
It's a guarantee. Maybe if you're single, you turn that one down. But if you got a family and stuff, you got to take the security, right?
Yeah, the family's. You're right, and actually right. And then after a while, just knowing that you're there, that's where I would go.
Yeah, I think tough one. That's a tough one though, because you, as an actor, you would want to play different roles.
Yeah, and maybe to make that question even, you're like, all right, but if you chose the other route, you got a superhero type one in there. You got the main bad guy in there. Now, it could be within the 13 years. You don't know exactly where it'll be. Maybe it's all in the beginning and nothing else.
Yeah, there might be some lean years in there.
Yeah, but those things are guaranteed in there, like those few projects, but you don't know. You don't know. That's it. You're not really sure. Everything else is kind of question mark.
Well, that would make it tougher if you knew there was a couple of big roles the other way. Maybe you'd go that way, even if there's some lean years. I don't know. I think that'd be an interesting poll, like just to ask different actors and see what they would say. I'd be curious about that.
If the poll kept going too one-sided, then we kind of milk the pot on the other side.
I always thought Kelsey Grammer had the role. He was in Cheers for how long, and then just went to Frasier and played the same character. So he was doing it for a couple decades.
Yeah.
And then I guess he's had a pretty good career since then. Although Frasier's coming back, I guess now.
Wow.
It's time. Everything else has been back. I was like, why stop at Frasier? Just bring the whole Cheers crew back.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking how many we had. A few people pass, but I would love that.
Kirsty passed, and the coach, that played before Woody got there, has passed, obviously. But and on the new Frasier, the gentleman playing the dad is no longer there, but I think the rest of the cast is coming back.
Wow.
So, I don't know. We'll see. So I always play the game with the kids when I'm having somebody on the show. I go around, I was like, what have you seen them in? So I don't know if most of the time they don't have an answer. But my stepson, Sean, he never has an answer. ever. He's and he watches TV, but he's terrible with actors' names. So I asked him if he had seen you in anything. So what he said, and I don't know if this one's right or not, but he said you had a role as a teacher in Slenderman.
Teacher in Slender Man, and also a teacher in Hocus Pocus 2,
Oh,
which
now
was
see, I knew that one
yeah,
because the Hocus Pocus at my house when the girls especially were young loved it. So when Hocus
yeah,
Pocus 2 came out, they were fired up. So that one I've seen. I knew that one. But
the Hocus
Slender
Pocus,
Man, I'm a chicken, so I've never watched that one.
Hocus Pocus 2 was the one that I was kind of I was kind of the cool dad for at least a day. And the other 364 days, the girls had wanted
But
nothing
that
to do
one's
with it.
that if you got to show one to the kids, that's a great one to show.
That is a good one, and it's funny how it happens to me. First of all, I have one, well, I had a few scenes, but one was cut. But one scene that was early on, and because it was early on and had to do with all the other main characters, that got this big, surprisingly, a very big reaction from a lot of the younger generation. So literally the phone was blowing up from my, like, hey, can you say, and normally they don't, they're like, hey, you worked with Matthew McConaughey. They're like, who? They don't care. You know, Hocus some, whatever, some Halloween show. And next thing you know, it's they are
Well,
proud
and
for.
the great thing about that is that it's going to be on every Halloween
Yeah, right,
forever.
yeah. Hopefully,
You'll
and
have
it's
grandkids at some point watching it.
and it's talking about a Hocus Pocus 3. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, if it goes on popularity, I'm sure there will be. Because yeah, those movies, it's crazy how popular they are. But being said, there's not a ton of really good Halloween. It's a few, but
A
not a
few.
ton. Like
And
family friendly Halloween.
I'm
We
trying
used
to
to
think.
watch Halloween Town. I don't know if you ever heard of that one. We used to watch that when the kids were younger. There was two or
Yeah,
three of those, but
yeah.
and then the Hocus Pocuses. That's
I don't know. For some reason, I was never into the
Charlie
Halloween.
Brown.
Yeah. I was never really into the Halloween stuff. Maybe it's because as an actor, that's what we do as a living, is to pretend to be other people in a serious way. And so maybe the fake way of, Halloween never really stood out too much for me. Whether, as a holiday or even movies, but maybe Christmas movies and things like that. Those things I would always watch every year. But the Halloween ones, and of course, I'm in the Halloween one.
Of course. Now you'll have to watch.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do
exactly.
you watch yourself on screen?
I do, but I do from a learning perspective, as I do, for example, like when I do sports a lot, when I'm doing pickleball, I tape myself a lot because it's a lot of times what you might think you're doing, sports or acting, and you might feel something, you need to mirror that with actual, kind of technique. And so sometimes it's a matter of learning the camera better. Sometimes it's a matter of blinking less. Sometimes it's a matter of, do I believe that? Or you need to, that was I could see the emotion there, but technically you looked away from the camera, or maybe the head is moving too much or things like that. So I watch myself a lot, and I critique myself, and from a learning perspective, like, all right, that's what I did there. I see where a more, a one of the top actors, how they would do it. Now I need to, so it's constantly like honing your craft to get better. And so that, to me, if you didn't watch yourself, I think it's hard to, it's harder to improve. How do you have to really, I guess, have a lot of trust in what you do, to not watch yourself to.
I agree completely with you. I at least listen. I don't always watch, but at least listen to the podcast just for that, just because I'm trying to learn or to catch places where I can improve.
Yeah, it's kind of like sports, where when you and I were playing, they didn't use as much video, But imagine, like, for example, track or something, and you're kind of running, you kind of watch, the, I don't know, the stride, or, you watch some video. I
Yeah.
mean, that was one of the things that help out. It's kind of like the same thing now, the video analysis to me, and kind of looking back. So I don't really watch it back from an entertainment point of view, but I watch it from a trying to get better point of view.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to do it. I agree with you. How are you going to get better if you never pay attention to what you've actually done? You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's painful. Occasionally I'll watch it and I'll be like, "Ooh, not my best day." But
And
it's helpful.
yeah, and I don't mind that, because I know, some actors can't, and they just, it's too hard for them to kind of see themselves on screen, but maybe they're critiquing themselves too much. But to me, it's like, it's just, it's a necessary step to progress, to get better.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Completely agree with that. Well, Michael, this has been great. You got to come back. This has been fun. When
Yeah,
when
a
the
lot of
next
fun.
big thing comes out, you got to come back so we can talk some more.
Maybe when I become a pickleball pro, which I'm getting closer. You know,
I'm going to turn on ESPN, the Ocho or whatever it is at some point. They'll be showing pickleball, and there you'll be.
hey,
I'll
I
be
got
like,
my.
he made it.
Well, that's the thing. In pickleball, there's a whole senior pro circuit.
And I mean, it's not that old of a game. It just came out a little bit ago.
Yeah, it came out for a long time, but it hasn't been popular.
Yeah,
And
right, right.
so
Which is rare because, like, now it seems like we've already tried all the sports,
see
and here's a new one.
like, that's the secret, right? Because the people are not that good, because it's a newer sport, so there's more opportunity for average athletes like you and me.
I've been looking my whole life for that.
The same. That's why I'm hooked.
I always tell people I was good at just about anything, good enough to be on the team, but that was it. I wasn't great at any of them. I was good enough to play, but there was never that time where there was like, that's the guy. That wasn't me.
I mean, that's still I mean, at the end of the year, that's still an accomplishment, right? To get on that team.
Oh yeah, always. And especially when you're younger, being in those situations where you're on a team, whatever it is, for sports or acting or anything, that's a big deal as far as developing and learning how to interact with people. So yeah, it's
Absolutely.
worthwhile. Even if you're not the star, it's worthwhile. That's why I keep telling myself anyway. So a couple of things, Michael, before we wrap. Anything else you've been doing? You've been pretty busy, but anything else you're working on that we can keep an eye out?
Yeah, I'm on a cool project, a Taylor Sheridan show, called Linus. That's Taylor Sheridan with Yellowstone, and so I have a
Oh, everybody knows that one now.
Yeah.
They may not have known him a few years ago. Now they know.
This one's with Nicole Kidman, Zoe Saldana, Morgan Freeman, Dave Anderson. Really some great. I mean, talk about working with some stars. That was fantastic. So that comes out next month, and then I have another role with.
What's the name of that one again?
It's called Linus, Special Operation Linus. It's really.
I'm excited for
that. I've seen just my behind the scenes ADR stuff, and but it looks really good. I'm excited for that, and I have another show coming up. I won't name the name, but I have my first sex scene on TV coming up.
So, what was that like? Was it? Were you nervous, or what? Or is it? You've been doing this a while. It doesn't phase you.
No, I've never done it, so I was definitely nervous. So the first time was like, yeah, I was vegetarian for a while to try to be healthier, and then but I had to bulk up, so I had to so I'm like, I started early. I'm like, getting some, I'm not gonna, I actually got me to work out, and
yeah. Well, yeah, because you want to look good if you're in those type of scenes, you're going to be seen. So
because I didn't have like the Marvel superhero budget, and I also didn't have the 1 year to be like, all right, you can be
no personal chefs or anything.
This was all right in 3 weeks, but 3 weeks isn't. It was more about me feeling good enough, that myself to, but because you can't really change too much. But I tried whatever I could to do that, and that it was interesting. I mean, at first I was really kind of shy and uh, we're very shy. But then, later on, I'm like,
I
and
did it.
walking around, I don't need the robe. But then the intimacy coordinator says, it's not about you being comfortable. It's about making everyone else uncomfortable. That's I'm like, all right.
That's funny. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty. Oh yeah. There's other people. Okay. Did
So yeah,
they close the set for you, or was it just a normal day?
they closed the set. Yep, closed the set. Had they closed the set. Ended up bringing down bring the cast the crew way down. So you're gonna ask me how my wife thought about it?
It was coming. Yep.
I'll tell you when I tell her.
We'll edit this out.
My wife.
That's funny. Yeah, I was coming with that question, because I think that'd be like with my wife, she would probably handle it better than I would. Like, she'd probably think it was almost kind of hilarious and give me a hard time, because she knows how nervous I would be in that situation. So she might handle it better than I would, but I would probably get in my head and screw it up.
Well, because your buddy's gonna be watching it, and they're gonna be cracking jokes at you.
Oh yeah,
that stuff. But
that one would be a hard one to watch back, I think.
Yeah, if that 3 weeks wasn't enough time for me to kind of get in shape, yes, you're right, correct. If I wasn't physically the way I imagine I would be okay at, if it was below that line, yeah, I might not. That might be a one time, and like, let's file that one away.
I'm assuming that you have pretty good chemistry with your scene partner, but what if you didn't? What if you're in a scene, you had a sex scene, but for whatever reason you just didn't connect with the person? Then your acting would
Well, the person that I was with was a beautiful woman. So it was easy for me. Now you've asked her the same question, maybe a different answer.
Well, that's a big deal. So that one's coming out later this year too.
Yep.
Oh, you'll be hearing from me after that.
Well, knowing you, Michael, I think I might be worried, because I think you would make fun of me on that one.
Well, only in that I could put myself in that situation, and I know how I would be. I'd be a wreck with that. So, yeah, I might give you a little bit of a hard time for that. But I'm sure you're way more of a professional than I would be. I'd just be a wreck. I'd probably be like it would be. Like, I remember this time in middle school when we had to square dance in gym. And at that time, I was a nervous wreck, especially around, girls. And to have to actually hold somebody's hand or something, I just couldn't do it. And so I ended up getting yelled at by the gym teacher because I was being a dumbass. But I was just so shy, I couldn't do it. And that's that. I could totally see me getting on set all pumped up, like, have myself psyched up. And then that's what would play in my head, and it totally derailed.
It's funny. I feel like that in real life. I feel like that, but from an acting point of view, I don't, because I go through the character, and because the character's not.
That makes sense.
Funny how it's a very different. Acting something, I can completely do it, not have any self-consciousness, but in real life, that stuff would come out.
Yeah, I get that, because that's how I do this podcast. I told you I'm an introvert, so normally, I'm a little more reserved. But on this podcast, for whatever reason, it's like I'm playing a character. So I can just, it's really, the podcast is more what I'm actually like. But most people don't get to see it because I'm kind of introverted.
Oh, wow.
This is kind of like unfiltered, Mike. Good for good or bad. But that's I kind of get it. If you're into a role acting, then that's not you. That's the character with that. And that's kind of how I do the podcast. I kind of like, well, that's just the character. So
right.
I'm not as nervous. If that makes any sense at all.
Oh, 100%. That makes sense. Absolutely.
Okay, so last thing, Michael, before we wrap, where can we find you on social media?
Instagram, Michael.toe.
Yeah, it came right up when I put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty easy. And that's the best one. It's the nicest one. You just put your pictures up there and it's what you're doing or what you're eating. It's like what Facebook was for 5 minutes before we screwed it up. That's Instagram.
Yep, absolutely. And I I feel pretty good with Instagram now, but I'm dreading the day when they switch off of it and I have to learn this whole new platform. But right now I'm pretty good.
I know. It's like TikTok was kind of like that. We're on there and we put clips of the show and stuff, but you're not going to see me dancing. There's some talented people on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Michael, thank you so much. Let's plan to do this again when the next big thing, or maybe the sex scene. Maybe you come back and you can tell us how it was received.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. That was great talking with you.
Yeah, it's been terrific. All right, Michael, hold on 1 second. All right, so that was the talented Michael Toe. Big fan of his. If you haven't checked out his work before, he is terrific as Joe on City on Fire. You can also find him on the Boston Strangler movie on Hulu with Keira Knightley. Really, really good. So definitely check that out as well. We hit on most of the things I wanted to touch on, but missed a few. He had a role in R.I.P.D., which was based on comic book. He played an evidence clerk. He was on The Resident. I think we talked about Master of None for a little while. He was on Hocus Pocus, obviously, and then he had a role as Rain Man in Free Boy, Ryan Reynolds. So he's been in some really big shows and movies. So definitely give him your support. It's worth it. He's such a great actor, just a terrific guy, and apparently a really good pickleball player. Maybe that'll be our next interview. We'll do it while we're playing pickleball. Maybe we'll try that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again this week. If you're finding us for the first time, we could really use your support. It's easy, it's free. All we ask is that you subscribe. If you prefer to watch, it's on YouTube, MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. If you prefer to listen, just wherever you're listening to your podcast from, just subscribe there. That'll help us as well. You can find all 601 episodes, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. So definitely check us out there as well. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, bye, everybody.